All right. Welcome, everybody. Phil Nagy on Sports, joined as always by my cousin Kit. Again, thank you to those of you who are new since last weekend's live stream craziness, where the Chiefs and Browns game got exploded with viewership, which was just awesome. So we really appreciate that. This is our standard post-game mortem, post-mortem after the game, where we kind of take a look at those keys that Kit had for us and which ones they hit. Obviously, we would want to be talking about it after a win, but we come up 5 points short, and obviously plenty of opportunities and plenty of keys that were either partial hits or just misses completely. So, Kit, let's go ahead and start on that offensive side of the football. Which keys did we hit or not?
All righty. So for the first key here on the offense, emphasis on the run. Not enough of that, honestly. We talked about 20 carries or really touches each for Chubb and Hunt. In the rush numbers, there was 13 carries for Nick Chubb, 6 carries for Kareem Hunt, and then in the pass, Chubb got targeted 5 times, only caught 2 of those. So rough day in the pass game for Nick Chubb, and I know he was pretty disappointed with his performance there, dropping the ball a fair amount. And then only one target with 1 completion for Kareem Hunt. I think the biggest thing there, Nick Chubb was getting involved in this game, but for some reason, Kareem Hunt really wasn't involved in this game. With only really 7 touches of the ball in the entire game, which is, unusually low for him anyway. And I think probably not taking advantage of a guy that could have produced potentially a lot for us in this game.
I agree. He definitely had a little extra juice, it felt like, going against his old team.
Absolutely. And I don't understand why we weren't looking to get him more involved, because I think he could have been big for us. Second piece here being offensive efficiency. And no, we really didn't hit this key. We struggled quite a bit in this game. There were times where we were clicking on offense, but there are too many times where we're getting shut down and letting this defense kind of exert its will. A guy named Blake went out there and not ideal that he's having to play after we have some injuries there in the tackle. Unfortunately, that really hurt us in a couple places, not just here. But I think that's really where they managed to shut us down a little bit more than we wanted to in our drive opportunities, because we weren't really able to protect his Baker as efficiently as we had been, and we weren't quite as good in the run game, and that hurt us. So next key being that killer mentality in the red zone. We not really. It was kind of odd. We really didn't exploit probably the biggest matchup disparity against this team here. We didn't do as well there as I would have expected us to. We did score to keep ourselves in the game, but not as much as we probably should have or could have. Especially painful was that. I don't know, we weren't really in the end zone or in the red zone at the time, but that completion to Higgy that he ended up taking the hit right almost at the goal line and fumbled it through for a touchback right to end the first half, and that really changed a lot about this game. It would have been a completely different game going into halftime with that touchdown. And so the next key being minimizing punts. We only had 2 punts in this game, so we did a fairly decent job of that. Now, we did go for it a lot on 4th down, although we're arguably, which was good. So the aggressive side of it was there, which, we needed to see. We needed to be aggressive against the Chiefs. There's been a lot of discussion since the fact of, should we have been going for it on that 4th and 8, or should we punt late with, down by 5? And of course, we elected to punt. Yeah, if you hand the ball over, the game's over if you don't convert. But on the other hand, kind of like the Chiefs did, who do you want to win this game for you? The offense that is producing, or the defense that is struggling? And I think that was true on both sides of the ball. And if we had trusted our offense and Baker Mayfield to get that first down for you, and he's been killer this year on 4th down, especially some of those longer 3rd down, 4th down conversions, he's been really good. But then again, the same discussion earlier where we had a, effectively practice squad level tackle out there. He was struggling, and the pass protection was definitely showing at times where he was, the pocket was just collapsing, and guys that were getting open, Baker just didn't have enough time to hit them. Yeah. So there were definitely some struggles. The other piece of this too is I think we left a lot of our game plan out on the field in the previous drive, because they had to go through all their bags of trick, or all their bag of tricks, and kind of had a lot not a lot left in the tank, if you will, as far as new looks, and you already have to simplify your offense for having that tackle out there that is not the guy you were game planning for. So yeah, unfortunately we were kind of up against the wall, and then it's a question of, where is your risk? Do you trust Baker and that line to get it done for you or not? And that's a tough call either way, because the alternative to that is trusting the defense, and we saw what happened with the defense. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done for us. Anyway, so continuing on with the offense, though, not really. So the consistency in the third quarter piece, we did okay there. That's really where we kind of kept ourselves in this game, at least. So I'll give us a partial win on that one. And then the last key being never letting off the gas. Absolutely, these guys, to a man, fought to the bitter end. They never let go. They were determined to try to win it any way they could, and we just didn't come up with a victory in this one. Excuse me. So no, I'll give them credit for not taking the foot off the gas, but and the effort was definitely there. It's just, there were a lot of things going against us, and this was a wild game for the Chiefs too. Let's be fair. Mahomes going out with that concussion changed the complexion of this game entirely. So some serious injuries on both sides that negatively impacted the game and totally changed the scoreline from what could have been a very score happy game to actually a relatively low scoring game, much lower than I think most people thought it would be.
Absolutely. All right. Well, what about the defensive side of the ball? At times it sure looked like we couldn't stop them at all. And then we got a couple of key stops when we needed to, and a missed field goal helped, and other things. So let's talk about those defensive keys.
So on defense, it was interesting. Not the game plan I expected on defense. I thought for sure that we would see Ward get told, "Hey, you lock down Tyreek Hill and take him away," and that was not what happened. Ward was out there sometimes on Tyreek, but other times, we saw him on Kelsey. We saw him, elsewhere as well. He was on Hardman. I mean, he was in a bunch of different coverages out there. So not really the game plan I expected there. So I can't really call that a win specifically for that key. Although we didn't. I mean, yes, Hill had over 100 yards because they threw to him quite a bit, but none of them were longer than 26. And he didn't have a touchdown. So he didn't really have any hugely explosive plays. So we actually did a reasonably good job. So I'll give that one a partial win. We did okay on that key. We also did pretty well with the not blitzing Mahomes. When Mahomes was out there, we really weren't blitzing. The problem was not the fact that we weren't blitzing. The problem was the next key, which is that organic pressure, which we just did not have. Miles got back there one time, and a couple other times where he was getting close, but only one sack. And that was more of a manufactured sack that he had to really work for after the fact, after it was kind of a broken play. But the organic pressure, really nobody else stepped up with Miles. It was just Miles out there, and he just was not able to get it done. He had that injury that really you could tell was impacting him in this game, and he had that pretty early in the game. So yeah, there was just not enough pressure, and Mahomes at first was allowed to do almost whatever he wanted to do, and that really hurt our secondary. And our linebackers were struggling as well, so that it was not a good game because it started with that D line. The D line just couldn't get it done, and that was absolutely, like I said from the beginning, that was a game key. Now that like I said, the complexion changed when Mahomes goes out with that concussion, but even so, after that, we still weren't getting back there and challenging Henne, which we needed to. And then that giving up that long run on the third down that he scrambled for was just absolutely a backbreaker. And then Kansas City really did the same thing that I thought we should have, or potentially should have, in putting the trust in Henne to get the first down, and the offense, to take advantage of the weakness of our defense, where we should have potentially done the same thing the other way around on that
Yeah.
4th and 8.
Yeah.
And then playing the game one snap at a time. I think they did a decent job of that. They still came up with plays, and even when they were getting some chunk yardage, they were still, making plays, and it didn't look like they were seriously affected, where they were able to do a decent job of playing one step at a time, but they were still porous at times. So decent, not great. And then the last key, finding ways to stop them. Really, that one was not by anything that they did per se. That was just the fact that Mahomes went out. So Kansas City became not so much of a juggernaut after that. But then, unfortunately, we still weren't able to get the job done there.
Yeah, agree with all those things. Sorry, we just got some new folks on the chat I'm saying hello to. All right, special teams key.
So on the special teams, first of all, the first key was every extra point is gold. I was hoping for no field goals. We did end up having a field goal because of our offense having some struggles. But Parkey was 100%. He hit his one field goal and all of his extra points. So good job on Parkey. Again, kicking in playoff football. You can't ask for any more from your kicker. That's exactly what you need to see. Seeing a good showing from DeErnest. We actually had some okay returns. They weren't great, but they at least put us in reasonable, at least got us to the 25 at least on the returns. So they were fine. I didn't have any particular problem with that. And then taking advantage of every opportunity given on the special teams. I thought the special teams as a unit was probably the cleanest football that we played, in the whole game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Just answering questions. Sorry about that.
All good.
Okay, and then the overall keys to victory, obviously. Didn't hit enough of them. Just remind us what they were.
So the overall key, time of possession wins the game, and sure enough, we ended up with the ball for 29 minutes, and they ended up with the ball for 30 minutes. Kansas City won. So go figure. Time of possession did, in fact, dictate the win on this one. Winning in the trenches, and absolutely this was crucial on both sides of the ball. And the biggest reason why I think we didn't win in this game outside of time of possession was because we just did not win in the trenches consistently.
Sure.
The defensive line in particular just wasn't getting enough pressure, and then we were just having some struggles getting our offense going, and it really started up front with that offensive line because Will's going out. Now, I'm not saying Blake had a bad game. Blake Hance played well for what he was, for what he is going into this game. Very impressive from a guy that was on a practice squad just a week and a half ago, right? Or 2 weeks ago. But still, you're going to get what you get out of a guy like that, and that unfortunately came back to bite us because that's the reason we drafted Jedrick Wills, number 10. You really proved out why that number 10 pick had to be the left tackle there, and how well he's played for us. And oh, by the way, what we've effectively done with that number 10 pick is now this was a whole team, not just the left tackle, but without that left tackle, it does make a big difference. And we've gone from a number 10 pick to a number 26 pick. And I would say any Browns fan has got to think that's a big improvement.
Yep, for sure. For sure. Okay, a couple of. Oh, sorry.
So I'm sorry, I was not quite done there with the overall. Okay. I just forgot I needed to keep going. Yeah, 3 phases complementary. No, we didn't get there. Really, only had 1 phase that was truly playing complementary football. That was special teams. We already hit on that. Offense and defense both had their individual struggles and really started and ended in the trenches on both of those. And then the last 2 keys being carrying the energy forward and playing. Leaving it all out on the field, like it's playing every snap like it's your last. Um, I already touched on the energy in this game as far as, I feel like the team left it all out there. I don't feel like, you know, we lost because the effort wasn't there. So I'm
Hmm.
happy with both where they were and all of that. Sometimes you just don't get it done, and sometimes
Yeah.
games like this are just on a razor margin, and we were right there. We had opportunities to win this game for
Yep.
sure,
Absolutely.
and you just for the reasons that that we've kind of talked about, just didn't go our way this time.
Yeah.
And there could have been many times that we did succeed in this game that could have ended the game where we needed to have a conversion. We got it.
Right.
So just because we didn't get it done on the times that ended up being crucial or critical to the win in this case doesn't mean that we weren't actually out there, with really good effort. And they did have some impressive conversions on fourth down, impressive conversions on third down that were really critical to winning or to having a chance to win this game. But unfortunately, there ended up being just a few too many to actually overcome by the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. I went and took a shower at halftime. I was like, I need to like rinse off, like, because I thought they were going to get blown out. It was just like,
Mm-hmm.
what is happening? And what is it, 19-3 or 16-3 or something? I was like, this could get really ugly really fast.
Yep.
And to their credit, I mean, this team has not quit all year, and that's yet another example of what Stefanski has brought to them, and just their professionalism and their attitude and their, I mean, most Browns teams would have completely, in the last 20 years, would have completely wet themselves, and that could have been 50-6, you know.
Right. Well, and I think what's really telling in that first half in particular is the fact that it only was, 16 or 19. I think it was 19-3.
Right.
The fact that the score was only at that point um, really is telling, because that was with the whole first half was with Mahomes. And
Hmm.
for the amount of actual offensive production they had, because they had a lot. They had a lot of yardage, and we actually did a pretty good job of limiting them in both possessions, forcing them to work their way down the field, not their traditional like chunk all at a time yardage. That's why the score wasn't that high. They didn't
Yeah.
have that many. They didn't have that many possessions, and Pat Mahomes and company weren't able to get huge chunks all at once. So
Yeah.
we were actually doing what we needed to do. Critical, that one play we already talked about, I think in some ways was potentially the momentum shift difference in this game, where
Hmm.
if we score that touchdown going into half, have a potential double dip coming out of the half, and now maybe we win this game even with Mahomes in it through the whole rest of the game. Who knows? Because we are a team that really thrives on being in kind of the lead and putting games away.
Yep. Yep. All right, a couple of questions here from the crew. Speaking of that play in particular, what are your thoughts about the dumb? Well, I won't. I won't call it the dumb. What are your thoughts about the fumbling through the end zone is a touchback rule for the other team?
Um, the rule's correct, and I agree with that. That was called on the field correctly. Where I take issue with that play is, and it, to be fair, probably didn't have a very good angle on this, and I know it's not reviewable, but that was a very much a lowering the helmet to helmet hit,
Hmm.
and which ended up causing the fumble, and they blatantly missed a foul that should have been, we would have punched it in from there because we would have had it on the 1 inch line then.
Yeah.
So we for sure would have scored, and same outcome. The call on the field, missing the lowering the helmet, and the fact that it fumbled, stayed in play, went through the end zone, and that out of play before anybody could touch it. Just, I mean, that's the way the rules are written. I don't have any
Yeah.
issues with the way the rules are written. And we've
Okay.
taken advantage of similar things, so I can't really sit there and,
Sure.
and complain about it.
Right. Yeah. I heard some people saying, like, when you throw the ball out of the back of the end zone, it doesn't become the other team's football. You know, they're just. And again, it was probably designed to be in there, so that if you, oh, quick, I'm going to get tackled, let me fumble the ball out of bounds in the end zone so we can still maintain possession. I mean, again, it had to have been in there for a reason, and obviously we're bitter about it, but it certainly feels like how does that automatically become the other team's ball? Nobody got any possession, so it shouldn't have changed. Like, bring it back to the 5, bring it back to the 2. Like, I don't know, but maybe that's
Right.
just me with sour grapes. Okay, a couple other things here. Um, a couple people, I can't remember who asked it now. I apologize. Did they give up on the run too soon for you?
Yes, absolutely. And we already talked about that really for the first key. They were in a position where they should have been running. They weren't down by that much,
Mhm.
down by a score or two. But with as effective as our running backs are, even with not the best offensive lines. Now, that being said, the run blocking was not what it should have been with Hance over there, as opposed to, and that's really where he did struggle more so than in the past. Protection was in the run blocking. But yes, we gave up on it too soon. And the bigger key for me is not so much the lack of emphasis on the run because Chubb was seeing the ball and running the ball even in the second half, but Hunt just almost was a non-factor. They
Yeah, it
almost didn't
was.
call anything for him, and I thought he should have been hugely involved. That was very puzzling to me. That's where I felt like we really gave up on a good opportunity in the run game that we just did not. We didn't really do.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly feels like those couple of screens to Chubb, which if you look at the all 22, like there was so a lot of green grass on
Hmm.
both of those dropped screens that would have been drive sustainers and momentum shifts. And
Yeah, and Chubb's got to
um,
catch those. And the
yeah,
fact that he wasn't, the coaches should have shifted there. I know there's a tendency that Hunt's in, so he's going to get a catch,
sure, I
or it's going to be a
understand.
screen or whatever. But still, the adjustment in that case is Chubb's not catching it, or catch it even after maybe one, but definitely two. Certainly not three though. We got all the way to three drops, targeting Chubb. They should have probably the very first drop screen just said, all right, Hunt on screen plays, please.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Do you think that targeting should be reviewable?
Yes, probably. Although I see the downside of that too. There's going to be a lot of complaints, especially with the kind of the wave of resistance to the new way football is playing to avoid but to avoid two things, both the injuries, but then also the not wanting to make stuff like that reviewable to not slow the game down any more than it already is. Excuse me.
Hmm.
Um, but um, but the yeah, probably should be reviewable if we're really concerned about people's health here. But then again, the NFL chose not to suspend him or
Yeah,
anything. I don't think he even
they,
got fined out of that.
no, they certainly doubled down on, and even the Kansas City Chiefs Twitter page screen grabbed that hit and says "Dirty Dan does it again in the playoffs." Like, why are you calling your player dirty and like flaunting this illegal hit that he made? Like, it just seemed very, and they kept it up for a long time. It was very strange.
Right. Well, and there was a lot of talk about, I know Patrick's mom was really concerned with
Oh
the
yeah, he's fine.
concussion.
Our resident Chiefs super fan Rodney is on the chat, and he says that it actually turned out to be a neck injury, which it looked like at the time. I was like, when did he hit his head? He never hit his head, and that
Right.
he's passed most of the tests, and he will probably practice tomorrow. So
Right. Well,
I'll
that's
take
good. Good.
I'll take Rodney's word
Good for
for it. And
them.
absolutely, I don't think they would have had a prayer with Chad Henne back there
No,
against the
no, I don't think
Bills.
so.
So
No,
um,
much better off with Mahomes, obviously. But I'm glad it's not a concussion because that potentially or probably would have kept him out. But there was some talk on, oh well, Mac Wilson had a dirty hit too, and I just don't buy that. That was not a dirty hit. It
oh
just the
gosh,
way it
there's nothing dirty about it. Yeah,
yeah the way it turned out. It's unfortunate he got hurt. You never want to see that,
sure.
but
Yeah, you
but
can't play
I didn't see it.
results.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't see it as a Mac Wilson making a some kind of dirty play. Whereas
Right.
that hit on Higgy, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, he lowered his helmet
Well,
very
and
definitely, led with the crown. There is
sure.
no debating whether or not that was dirty.
And I know you can't play results, but had Higgy gotten knocked out and laid there on the ground for a while, or gotten up and been real woozy, does that make it, it's hard to, like I said, you can't play results all the time. And I feel like in college, sometimes they do milk it a little bit where they'll be like, oh, I'm just going to lay here for a minute.
Right.
Hey, let's review for targeting. So I do get that part of it. I would like to get to a system in the NFL, kind of like college, where there's a separate crew and literally they're looking at every play
Hmm.
and not slowing down the game until it's like, let's buzz down, like, we're going to want to look at that one, So who knows? There's not a good answer. And like I said, we're full of sour grapes. If it had gone the other way, and we had won and something similar had happened, I'm sure the Chiefs fans would be just as miffed as we are. So,
Right.
but we'll see. So, all right. Well, that's where it's at. So appreciate it. This will be the last post game review video that we do here this season. It was a great season. We
It
will do
was.
sort of a season in review video, if you will. And then we will do probably more than a couple of videos coming up about the off season, kind of do a video about all of the free agents. Which ones do we see them re-signing? Which ones should they at least offer? And at what, dollar-ish amounts. I'm not going to make Kit play a true capologist or anything, but, um, you know, I think there are some players that we would like to bring back at the right price. And if Andrew Berry showed us anything last year, especially with a lot of those defensive deals, those were 1 year prove it deals. And I'm not sure how many of those guys proved it, frankly. Does Kevin Johnson deserve to come back? Does
Right.
Malcolm Smith deserve to come back? Carl Joseph, Andrew Sandejo, the list goes on. So we'll dig into
Right.
all that stuff a little bit later once there is real football not to talk about. But until then, we will not enjoy them as much as we would have had we won the game, but we'll continue to enjoy the last couple weekends of football. I will commit to simming the AFC and NFC championship games this weekend for those who are interested in that, which will be kind of fun, just not as much fun. But at least we can't be upset about Madden screwing our team over. Somebody else's fan base can get upset about it, but we'll do that then and double back into it. So we appreciate it. Again, everybody who was on the chat today, Karen and Hannah and Keith and Cristiano and Tilted and Keith. I think I already said Keith. Chris G was on. Roddy was on. So again, really appreciate everybody being on. Hamden was on earlier as well. Wendell was on. So appreciate all the subscribers, new and old alike. We really do appreciate it. Our fun little summer project has blossomed now into, gosh, we're into our second year now. We started this thing in 2020, June of 2020, I think, and now here we are in about to be February 2021. So we really appreciate it. And again, we'll be back in I don't know, a couple days, maybe a week or so, to tie a bow on the season, and then we will start to do the off season because the NFL never sleeps. It's always something season, which is part of the reason we love it so much. So for myself, Phil Nagy, my cousin Kit, out on the sunny West Coast, you can see in the background it's sunnier than it is here in Columbus. But we really appreciate it. We'll get out of here the way that we always do by saying,
Go.
go.